what's crazy is most of us don't think about where exactly specifically do I want to go with my life, with my vision, with my relationship, with my business.
What went well, what didn't go well. After I've reflected, there are some lessons learned that I pull out. I'm like, when I look forward, these are some things that I don't want to do, or these are some things that I'm going to say no to in the future.
You're setting yourself up for those kind of wins and for that momentum, whether or not you've actually been successful with your goal setting and execution in the past.
What is the shortest, quickest, easiest path for me to move forward on this goal? Welcome to the Takeover with Tim and Cindy, where we show you how to dominate every area of life and business. Let's get winning.
Welcome back to the Takeover with Tim and Cindy. Now, I want to ask you a question. Now, if you have two ships and they're both at port, they're both, docked, and one ship is like, I want to go somewhere nice. Where do you want to go specifically? I don't know. How are you going to get there? I'm just going to go with the flow. And then that boat leaves. What do you think the chances of that boat getting to a destination successfully would be?
Very slim.
Well, what would be the chance of that ship even kind of getting it out of the port? Okay, now let's look at another boat. The other boat knows exactly where they're going. We're looking at the ocean right now over here. Let's just say this other boat's going, we want to go spend the weekend in the Bahamas. We want to cruise to the Bahamas. And they had exact path. They knew the weather that they were going to have to deal with. And they had all those details. What do you think the chances of boat number 2 getting to the Bahamas for that weekend getaway would be?
They're getting there.
They're getting
100%.
there. But what if it rains? What if it storms?
They've probably prepared for all possible weather conditions.
Yes, I 100% agree. The same thing is true of an airplane flying somewhere. The same thing is true of anything you do in life. However, what's crazy is most of us don't think about where exactly specifically do I want to go with my life, with my vision, with my relationship, with my business.
Yeah.
And they don't chart out like exactly how to get there and the potential challenges you might run into. So today we're going to walk you through the way that we have for the last 4 years charted where we want to go, the process to get there, and laid out hey, what are some potential difficulties we're going to run into? And we do it in a way that's very light, it's very fun, and it's incredibly effective. Now you can do this if you're a solopreneur. You can do this if you have a business partner. You can do this if you have a large leadership team. Now, if you are a solopreneur, you can do this by yourself, or you can grab an accountability partner. I mean, the biggest thing is that you just do this and that you execute on it. So let's go ahead and jump in. It's really 3 parts to the entire process. So why don't you kick us off, Cindy, on what's the very first thing that you got to do when you're trying to do annual or quarterly or even monthly planning?
Yes, so excited. I absolutely love this topic. I am a planner like crazy, but I think with any good, successful plan, you have to be able to execute and implement on what it is that you're planning, right? And so we don't want you all to get stuck in the planning and the fun of planning, because everybody can plan. And it's a very, very small percentage of people that will map out the plan and then take the steps to execute. You think about 90% of New Year's resolutions fail. And the reason for that is it's nice to set the goal and to plan and to have all these resolutions, but the putting in the work and taking the action on the other side of it is what is difficult for a lot of people, or where people fall short. How we kickstart off our annual planning is, first, you want to think about, before you can map out the chart for where you want to go, you have to reflect back. So I always say looking back is essential to moving forward. So part 1 of this exercise of where you're going to plan out your year or the quarter that's upcoming is you want to look back and ask yourself some questions to reflect on exactly where you are now. Okay. So I have to know what my starting point is before I can map out that journey for where I want to go. Some questions that can help you on this, ladies and gents, can be, what went well this year? simply like reflecting on what are some areas that went really well? What were some of the wins that I had? And for us, this looks like we either have like one of those easel pads where we write it out. We've done whiteboards. You can just have like a pen and paper and a notebook where you're writing these things down. It's so fun and it's so exciting to look back and reflect on like what were the wins that happened this year and write them all out. Like take some time to really sit and think about month by month. Maybe you're doing this on a quarterly basis and you're looking back. What went well this last quarter? What were some of the wins that I had personally, that my team had, that we had as a company, our finances, in all areas? Just reflect. What went really, really well?
And that's so important too, because I think, and we've talked about in other episodes of how progress in winning is actually slow. Like, and it takes like it just one day after another day, like progressing slowly. The wins rarely come like in big forms. It's very, very slow and progressive. However, the setbacks can come very, very quick and strong. So they stick out in our memory more. I think what I love about the beginning part of this exercise every time we've done it is when you start to go like, oh, holy cow, we've actually had a lot of wins, because your brain's kind of remembering. And I think the temptation to go into weekly planning is like, what do we need to fix? Did we hit the goal? No, we're under here and under here. Oh man. And coming into it from a negative point of view, which is like, it's setting off just even on a neurochemical level, like you're not associating this with a good thing. You're not associating the vision of the new year with that. And so what I love about this is when we are doing this, when we do this every year, like, oh my gosh, like you forget how many wins you've actually had this year. And it gets you in a good state, which, I mean, just thinking about your brain loves to win. Reminding yourself why you're doing this, why you're showing up is because of all those wins you've had. And you'll be surprised how many wins you actually had when you start laying them all out. And this is one of my favorite parts of it. And what a great way to kickstart.
It's so fun. It's so fun. You can put on music, you make it fun for yourself, and just like allow yourself to think about all the wins, no matter how small or how big they were. Like, this is an opportunity for you to really celebrate the progress that you've made, milestones that you've hit, and then the wins that you've had in the period of whatever you're reflecting on. So now that you've done that, you kind of set the tone for how you want this to go, right? It's a lot of energy, as you mentioned, momentum, enthusiasm, because you're celebrating the wins. Now it's time to reflect on what didn't go well. And as you mentioned, Tim, why we put the second is you first want to start off with what went well and prime your mind on like this progress that has happened for me within the last 3 months or within the last year. Now it's time to kind of reflect on what didn't go well. Okay, so what are some areas that maybe I set this goal and I didn't hit it? Or some areas that maybe we potentially tried this venture, we tried this opportunity, we tried this idea, and it didn't go so well. So what this allows you to do is not only just celebrate the wins, but think about in what areas do I either need to reflect or adjust or potentially move away from a certain area, because it allows you to recalibrate. Right? So I think about this as like recalibrating. So I'm celebrating what went well, but I'm also bringing myself back down to what didn't go well so that I can, as I'm moving forward, chart my course in the right direction.
I think what I love about the word that you use, recalibrate, is that it's like if you have a machine and it was, if your camera was blurry, you want to recalibrate it so that it's sharp. And so this isn't like an emotional, like, oh, we suck. This went bad. Yeah. Woe is me. This is like, okay, we're in that win state. Okay, we had some great wins. Like, what are some of the things that didn't go so well, and what do we need to do to recalibrate? Because I think when you're looking at it like that, it's just a practical. You're not getting that emotional sting.
Yes.
Which is very easy to happen when you're reflecting on what went wrong or what challenges do we have. When you really label it properly, which is like what needs to be improved. Or I know when we're working with the sales team, it's always like, instead of like, here's what you did wrong, it's like, here's your areas of opportunity.
Yes.
Like here's where to grow. So this could even be like really making sure you're labeling this in a way that it's very, very practical. And it's like, okay, what went wrong? What were some of the assumptions we had? Why did it go wrong? So that it's very just like a practical way to adjust next time, not just to do that activity, but how do we adjust other activities that we do to make sure that we minimize, failures moving forward?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the second part of that is once you've written down like what didn't go well, it's pulling out the lessons learned. Because ultimately you don't grow from experience, right? You grow and you learn from evaluated experience. And so this is an opportunity for you to go back and look at those things that went well and those that didn't, and to pull out the lessons learned. So that as you are setting the intention and setting goals for that next time period, whether it's the next monthly goal, the next quarterly goal, or the next annual goal, you're doing it from a place of, I know what worked and what didn't work, and I've pulled out the lessons learned.
Yeah.
You have some more information.
Yeah.
Right? It's not just enough to go through the experience and think like, oh, my mind knows like not to do that. And no, it's like you have to be intentional about pulling out the lessons learned. And you and I, Tim and I, will literally write it out. We'll write out what our lessons learned were for that period. So potentially it's like, hey, we learned like not to put a focus on this one thing, or we learned XYZ, whatever that is. It's just being very intentional about writing out what your lessons learned are.
You have a lot of quotables today, by the way, because like it's not experience that we don't learn from experience. We learn from experiences that we've reflected upon.
Yep.
And I think when we first started talking about that, because we started doing weekly reflections where we would meet, we would reflect what were wins for the week. We still do this, by the way. What were some challenges, and that allows us to make adjustments really quick in the business. And so I think just that habit, we actually do on a weekly basis, a monthly basis, a quarterly basis, and then a yearly basis. And reflected upon experiences bring a very, very, very fast growth. Just experience, you're kind of like leaving it up to a little bit of chance. Like you will kind of learn a little bit, but this is just such an easy way, such an effective way for you to take the experiences you've had, good and bad, and really squeeze the most juice out of the orange is kind of the way I'd like to think about it.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. It's like the more that you can pull out those lessons learned, it ensures that you don't repeat the same mistakes again, right? And when you're entering a certain situation or certain circumstance, whatever that looks like, you have that knowledge and that backing and that lesson that you've already learned so that you can apply it moving forward, and you're not in this cycle of repeating the same mistakes over and over. So I love this part because it's so powerful. And I just think about for you and I, how much we've taken out of reflecting on those experiences and writing out lessons learned. It's helped propel us so much into that next level in our life and in our business.
Yeah. So we reflect upon the wins, get that win momentum.
Yay.
Right. We do that every day with the team. What are the wins? And then when we're doing our planning, it's what are the difficulties, challenges, and then lessons learned from those.
Yep.
Where do we go from here, Cindy?
So part one, we looked back, we reflected, we know exactly where we are now, which is the goal of part one.
Yeah.
Look back so that you can move forward. Now, as we're stepping into part two of our planning exercise, this is where you are going to map out your goals and cast vision. I love this section because you can dream big, think big. I always say remove all the limitations on what you think you can do and what you think you can have, and allow yourself to really think big. So how we start this exercise off is we write out our goals in 5 specific areas. So for you, ladies and gents, this may be different. Maybe you want to add some areas or remove some areas. Maybe you want to customize this. Absolutely, do that for yourself. For us, we specifically set goals for these 5 areas. It's our finances. So we have our financial goals.
It's the money.
It's the money. Yeah.
Where do we want to be at with our money?
Yes. And the second is business. Potentially for you, it's in your career if you don't have a business. We map out our goals for our health and our wellness.
Yeah.
That's area number 3.
That's a big one.
4 for our relationship. And then 5 for our growth, our learning, and our development. So again, there's 5 areas. It's finances, business/career, health and wellness, relationship, growth, and learning. Again, you customize these based on 5 areas of your life that you want to put focus on, because this is ultimately where you're going to set those goals.
Yeah, and I think what's super important is how much you need to value every one of these areas. Like, it's always so funny when somebody says, "Well, money doesn't buy happiness," and you're like, "Why are you talking about two different things and saying one's more important than the other?" It's like, I love, and I've said this before, I love having my left hand and I love having my right foot. Like, I don't want to have to choose between both of those. Like, I don't want to choose between having money and having health. I want both, right? I don't want to choose between having money, health, and then having like relationship. Like, I want to have all of them. Synergy. Yep. And the thing is, what I love, and that's why I kind of comment, I'm like, oh, the health is very important because it gives you more energy, gives you more mental clarity for your business and for your career. And when you're banging on all cylinders when it comes to your career and your fitness, your money's going to come in. And guess what happens now when things are going smooth with your relationships and your relationships are healthy? That affects every area. And when you have work-life synergy, the whole concept of work-life balance is broken. And I think the concept of, well, we have to balance things. And no, you don't. You have to make sure everything's working together synergistically. Absolutely. And when you plan all those things out, like, what do I really want in every area of this life without excuses? Well, I don't want to put too much weight on my money. Like, okay, you don't put much weight on your money until something crazy happens and you need money. Yeah. Right? You don't, and it's a matter of like, what do I really want if I weren't to make some excuse of why I can't have something or some reason why I need to justify me having something because I feel guilty about wanting a certain car or feel guilty about wanting a certain level of money or feel guilty about anything. If you just remove those limits during this planning and just like legitimately say, if there is no limitations in my mind, what is it that I want this next year in every area of life? And I think that the healthiest thing to do is to really be honest with yourself of what you truly want and not need the approval of anybody else. Just be like, what do I want? What does Tim Dodd want? What does Cindy Makita Dodd want? Like, what do we truly want? Yeah. And then starting at that point, I think that will also energize you more so because it's authentic to what you want.
100%. So good. And in addition to that, it's if you only focus on, say it's 2 areas of your life where you set a goal just for your business and you neglect everything else, where your focus goes, your energy flows, right? If I'm only setting goals for my finances or just for my business, everything else is going to fall to the wayside. Yeah. So if you're not being intentional about setting goals in those different areas and prioritizing those different areas as well, they're going to fall to the wayside and all your energy, attention, and focus is going to go on, say, just your finances and just your business. And then your relationships are going to suffer and your health is going to suffer. And so that's why we say it's like work-life synergy. Everything works together to kind of help you propel toward that goal.
And it's easy to do. It's easy to let one go if you're not intentional about it. Right? Because what's easiest to set, at least for me, is the finance goal, is to set the growth goal, and historically not worry about those other ones. So what I love about this is you're setting a goal for each area of your life, each facet of your life. Yeah. And when any of the areas of your life do well, it makes the other ones better too. Absolutely. So it's like all rising tide lifts all boats. And I think that's what's been powerful about this for us is, my gosh, it's like, yeah, we've grown our businesses and our finances more than we ever have before, but it's cool because my fitness is better than it's ever been. Your fitness is better than it's ever been. Our relationship's better than it's ever been. Like our happiness, our like our relationships, our friends, like everything is lifted, and there's not been one area of our life that our walk with God, like I don't feel like there's one area of life that we've compromised.
Yes, absolutely. Because we've been intentional about setting goals for all those areas. So I think for those listening, it's what are those 5 areas that are priority for you? Maybe you have a big goal to want to travel and you make that one of the focus areas, like a travel goal, right? So you have to figure out what areas do I want to set goals in? What am I going to prioritize this upcoming quarter, this upcoming year? You map up those 5. It doesn't have to be the same as our 5. You figure out what those are for you and then start to set goals in those 5 areas.
So we kind of have the big picture of those main areas. Let's kind of dive into a little bit more of the mechanics of other areas of really mapping out the year, the quarter, the month.
Now that you have your goals mapped out in those 5 areas, the next thing that you want to reflect on and write out are what are some big opportunities and ideas that you have. So what I love about this, I think about it as like a big brainstorm session. Maybe you looked back and you reflected on the previous year and there were some opportunities that came up or that you didn't take advantage of. Now is a time to write out what are opportunities I want to take advantage of? What are some big ideas that I have for this upcoming quarter or this upcoming year? Brainstorm the heck out of this section. We like to use one of those easel pads. We have like markers and we just write and we write and we write. Biggest thing here is to remove all limitations. So it's like a massive brain dump on the ideas, the opportunities, things that you want to achieve and accomplish. Map them all out in this section and have fun with it. Really, really think big.
Okay, so big goals. Now we're mapping out the big opportunities, and I love this is like the whiteboard part, right?
Yes.
If you love whiteboard, Cindy loves the physical, the whatever they're called,
easel pad.
You tape them on the wall, and you've got
markers.
and I think there was one year we were up in Delray and doing this, and I think we had a hotel that we did for the weekend just to plan this out, and I remember that hotel was like these were all over. It was like the room was like those movies where there's the detective and he's like got pictures and like markings and a map everywhere. I felt like that was kind of like this like war room.
Yes.
So it was
yes, I have fun.
Those are fun. Yeah.
Yes, for sure. So map out big ideas, massive opportunities, upcoming month, upcoming quarter, upcoming year, depending on when you're mapping this out, right? So if we're doing annual planning, which we do around the end of the year, we're mapping out these big ideas and opportunities for the next year.
Yeah.
So, depending on what time frame you're looking at this at, map that out for yourself. Next, we're still in part 2 here, ladies and gents. So we've done the 5 areas. We've mapped out big opportunities, big ideas. Now we want to write out the answer to this question, which is, what are my non-negotiables?
Yeah.
These are the things that you are absolutely not going to put up with in the next year, right? And so a lot of this, at least for me, stems from like what went well, what didn't go well. After I've reflected, there are some lessons learned that I pull out. I'm like, when I look forward, these are some things that I don't want to do, or these are some things that I'm going to say no to in the future. So here's an opportunity for you to really put in place boundaries for yourself so that it makes it easy and frictionless to move forward toward your goals.
Yeah.
So this could be like, hey, one of my non-negotiables is I'm not saying yes to any partnerships that are unpaid. Like if it's a free partnership, like I don't want to take advantage of it. Like it has to be a win-win relationship.
Yeah.
This could be like, I'm going to say no to going out during the week. That's like a non-negotiable for me because I really want to double down on getting my sleep in order because that's a health and wellness goal for me. So you want to map out what are those boundaries, what are those non-negotiables for that year ahead or for the quarter ahead so that you are really setting yourself up to move forward toward your goals without friction.
I think one thing that I love of the concept of friction and not friction is like you want to create friction around bad things. Like I want to create friction around because we don't drink most of the year, and then we'll schedule times when we drink or events that we drink. So friction is we don't have alcohol in the house. Because so for me to break that rule now means that I have to go out, I have to go do something, or if we're not going to eat treats, right, we're not going to eat ice cream. Create friction where you don't want to do things, and then remove friction where you want to do more of certain things. And so I think that the non-negotiables is a great time to either create friction. If it's I'm not doing this anymore, then create friction to make it hard for you to do that thing that you shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
Right. And then in the areas that you want, I'm absolutely going to make sure that I do this, and this every day, every week. Remove all friction. What are the things that make that thing harder to do or make it more arduous, even mentally or just practically? And so the idea of friction is powerful to use in both senses. And so I think it's a really good tool to use. Maybe you've heard of this before, and maybe this is the first time you're hearing it, but you can add or remove friction based on whether you want to do more of something or eliminate doing that thing at all. Because guess what? It's really easy to eat healthy if there's no unhealthy food available to you.
Absolutely. What are some other non-negotiables that we can think back on that we put into place that's allowed us to do better in our life?
I mean, I think another like when we think about just in the business realm, some of the non-negotiables were, hey, we're not going to take on a client unless they're spending at least X amount of money with us. Just period. No matter how good it seemed, they have to be spending a certain amount with us. This was several years back. I mean, it's been a while. We absolutely do not do barters. Yes. If I want your service, I will pay for your service. If you want mine, you pay for mine, but absolutely no barters. Because, you know, in the what we do is, when we get offered, I'll trade you this service for that all the time. Like, and it's like, okay, no, if you really love what we do, then you can pay for it and vice versa.
Yes, that was a non-negotiable for us for sure.
Another non-negotiable we had was we're not going to mentor people that haven't spent money or bought one of our programs or services, because if they're not willing to invest in us, they don't believe in us enough for it to be worth our time to invest time or energy into them. So you got to think about this is going to be different every year.
Yes.
It's going to be different for you. You're going to find the things like, oh, I just don't want to do that anymore.
Yes.
It could even be certain, like certain day-to-day tasks that you do. Like, I'm no longer going to build funnels. Like, I'm no longer going to be the tech person, you know what I mean? Because originally I was doing a lot of the tech, a lot of the stuff, and that was a non-negotiable. Like, I'm going to, because my temptation can be to get into the mechanics because I know how to do this stuff and I can get it done really quick. But it was like a non-negotiable is that's not a good use of our time where we're going. There's certain things that we have to, even if it takes longer to set up a training program to build something, we're not going to get in the weeds on those kind of activities and more. We're going to empower other people to do that. So you got to kind of reach in and say, what are your non-negotiables that you're like literally willing to commit to and stick to for the whole year, for the quarter, for the month? Not like, well, I'm going to try. Trying does not work. Doing works.
Yes. So write out what those non-negotiables are for you. Determine what they are. A lot of it you're going to pull out from what were some of your lessons learned, maybe challenges that you had, and you're going to set those rules for yourself so you can move forward again without any friction. The last part, or the last thing you're going to answer of this section, part 2, we're mapping out our big picture vision and goals. You want to ask yourself, what is the theme or the word you want to place over this quarter or over this year? For us, we always have like a word for the year. We do a lot of themes for the quarter for our team. For example, at the end of every year, last quarter of the year, same theme is always separation season. How do we double down? How do we do more during this kind of last 3 months of the year? Because we know that's going to set us up for success moving into the new year. So for every quarter, we have a theme. For every year, we have like a word and a theme. And that helps us to guide the decisions that we make, what we're focusing on, where we're putting our attention. And I love it. And it's fun too. It's really fun having like a word or a theme for the quarter or the year. So can you remember some of them that we've had in the past other than, separation season, which is Q4 recurring theme? Yeah,
I mean, I think we have, some quarters it's been scale. Right. Some quarters it could be innovation. The big thing is, and our team loves this, like people love having a theme.
Yes.
People love having a theme. They love having a direction. They know where we're going. This could be like innovate. This could be, we had a theme where it was like all about AI, like AI innovation. This was some months ago where we've actually, what is cool is because that quarter that we took, innovating AI it was about innovation specifically, but AI was one of the things we innovated, and that actually kickstarted off where we're continually innovating AI like every week now. But what was cool is that kind of embedded that in there. There could be scale, like, hey, this quarter, the focus, the word is scale. And what does scale mean? It means just doing the same thing that we're already doing, that already works, just more of it. So it's like, now we know the theme of this quarter is like, we've got the thing working. Now it's just time to double down. So the entire team sees everything through the lens of scale. It's like, okay, if people are bringing ideas to the table, it's more like, how do we scale on what we're already doing? How do we double down? And so the whole team is on the same wavelength, so that you're not having to constantly have all these different themes or ideas depending on the person. And it allows us to go in the same direction, and it kind of makes the specific numeric type goals, it kind of makes it fun. And it's almost like, you know what I keep thinking of in my brain? I keep seeing like costume parties or like certain like themes of a party, or people like different types of parties, you know, like you have the baby showers, like there's all kinds of different events that have a certain theme to it that are fun. And this allows you to kind of bring that fun, that energy to just like business goals.
Yeah. I think it's even in a relationship, right? And with a family, right? You guys might have a theme where it's like, you know, with me and my spouse, my partner, this is a season of like abundance or a season of like opportunity. We're going to say yes to more opportunities. Maybe it's season of getting uncomfortable, and you and your partner, you challenge each other. Like, this is a season of getting uncomfortable. So let's challenge ourselves. Let's push ourselves. Let's go to the next level. So I think it's really cool having those themes because it does bring alignment, and as you mentioned, it makes it fun.
Oh, I love that. So season is, you say yes, where hey, this season we're going to say yes to the opportunities. Yes. A season is say no, like hey, we have so much going on, we're going to say no to everything that doesn't align. This is a season of where we're going to go deep.
Yes.
Deep in our relationship, like whatever that is. Like, you got to come up with the word, and what I promise you is when you come up with that word, that goal is going to come alive. That quarter, like, it really does breathe life into it. And I think I keep saying it, but I think it's so powerful how I was surprised to see how much everybody on the team just gathers around the theme.
Yes.
And then it's like, you don't even have to really bring the theme up very much. Like, the whole team will remind you of the theme, which is very cool.
Yes. And I think it's also knowing in life, everything happens in seasons. So knowing that to be true, you can put label on certain seasons so that you are still progressing, moving forward.
Right.
To reach your goals, keeping in mind what is the kind of season that we're in, right? So you mentioned like maybe we're going to say yes to certain things or say no to certain things. So you have to be able to discern what season you're in. We know Q4 for us is double down time. Like, we separate.
Separation
season. We double down. We do more of like the activities or the actions that are going to help us hit the goal. And there's other seasons rather where we're going to do like something different, right? And so it's being able to discern the season and to be able to move with it for sure.
And I think like if like for instance, like our team's all down for separation season. They're just like
every year.
Like it's November, December, while everybody's taking a holiday off. We're like, look, this is separation season. This is the time of the year that you can get a competitive advantage over all of your competitors, because while they're taking breaks, they're making excuses. They're waiting till January 1st like everybody else. You're getting a head start. And that separation season, having language to it, having a theme to it, creates like an energy and a synergy that if we were just to say like, hey, like let's work harder and do more stuff this time of year. Like, if people are like, no thanks.
I'm good. Thanks.
I'm good.
Yeah.
So yeah, it makes, I love that you said the seasons, the winter, the fall, the springs, like, because there is a different feel to each of them, and it allows you to choose what feel, what ideas you want to come from that season. So
yes, absolutely. Cool. So this was part 2. Again, part 1 started off with looking back to move forward. So we did a lot of reflection in part 1. Part 2 was all about mapping out the goals, big picture vision. So we laid out goals in those 5 specific areas. You choose what those 5 areas are for you. We mapped out what our big opportunities and ideas are. We mapped out what our non-negotiables are. What are we saying no to? What are we setting boundaries around? And then lastly, we mapped out what our theme or our word for the quarter or the year is.
We spent a lot of time on that one. I think that's a testimony to like how much we've loved having themes. Is we spent a lot of time just chatting about the themes there, because they have been fun. Now, so we've got part 1, part 2. Now we're kind of moving into this last final piece, which is really, I want you to talk on, but this is kind of where the rubber meets the road, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. So part 3 is all about taking action. So you've done all this cool stuff, you reflected, you have these goals that you've set. Now it's about how do we execute? What is the easiest thing that you can do right now or today so that you can take steps toward those goals? Right. So for us, maybe it's mapping out our action plans, or it's putting out those, big goals into like monthly milestones.
Yeah.
So now it's an opportunity for you to really take action and think about what is the shortest, quickest, easiest path for me to move forward on this goal. Right. So potentially you have a goal to like start a business. What's the easiest thing that you can do today to start making progress on that? Right. It doesn't have to be this massive thing that you have to go out and do, but the more that you can think about, I need to take action, and mapping out what those action steps are to get you to your goals. It's going to actually allow you to build momentum so that you're making progress and not making it like a New Year's resolution or like a someday. What most people will do is plan, because that's the fun thing to do. You write things out, you get your easel pad out, you get your whiteboard, and you map out and you write and you write. And that's the fun part. A very small percentage of people will do both the planning and the execution. It's probably like 1%. So if you want to be in the top 1% of people that actually take action, that follow through on the goals that they set, you need an action plan.
Yeah.
So taking this one extra step to map out what are the steps that I'm going to take to move me forward toward our goals makes all the difference. And it really is night and day from those that plan and from those that plan and execute.
Yeah, which is, you could, like earlier on in the show, we were talking about two boats. One has no plan, kind of knows, I want to go to a cool island maybe. And the other one's like, we're going to Bahamas. Here's how we're going to get there. Here's what the weather is going to be. And it's all planned out. This would be like planning that journey and then not taking action would be like having the perfect plan, the perfect journey, that you have everything mapped out and then not actually like leaving port.
Yes.
So this is, so what's the cadence of when you make out like the big goals where we want to go and like the plan and start executing on that? Is this like, okay, we plan in early December and then now we're going to execute January 1st, or is this like a right now, we take action right now on this?
Right now resolution. Yes, absolutely. So I would say it's already 10% planning, 90% execution. So planning is such a small part of it. The majority of your time should be spent taking action on the goals and the plans that you have.
I love that. And I know like for us, taking action, so you know, might look a little bit different for everybody, but for us, it's like, okay, what's the main goals we have for the year? And then, okay, cool. So then what's the main goals for this quarter to be on track for the year? And then what are like the main tasks that we need to prioritize to hit those goals? And then month to month, week to week, day to day, we can break that down. So what's the most important thing we have to do today to hit our today goal? What's the most important thing we have to do this week to hit our week goal, month goal, quarter goal? And so that's the easiest and most practical way to do it, is like, what are the 3 to 5 goals that I have this month? And what are the 3 things underneath one of those goals for the quarter or for the year that I need to do on a regular basis to actually be on track to hitting that goal? So maybe, is there any like other kind of practical ways of what that looks like to start taking action on those goals right now that you feel like would kind of save people maybe any frustrations of trying to figure out how to execute?
Yes, I would say just don't overcomplicate it. Think about what is the easiest thing that I can do to take me one step closer to the goal. So if I have this travel goal that I've set, like I want to travel outside of the country where I'm at and I want to go somewhere else. Maybe the easiest and most effective thing for you to do right now that's really simple is like, I need to get a passport, right? I think about like, what is the easiest next step that's going to allow me to make progress on the goal? When you've been doing goal setting, planning, like things like that for a while, it's easy to map out the 3 to 5 smaller goals that map out into monthly and the weekly and the daily. If it is your first time doing this kind of thing, it can be overwhelming getting into like the small intricacies and the details of the quote unquote action plan. So to keep it really simple and to make it very easy for you to do it is like, what is just one step that I need to take on the goal that's going to move me forward? Because then once you take that next step, then you know, okay, cool, I can take the next step. But if you haven't even taken just one step toward a goal, it can be very difficult to keep going. So easiest question is, what is one step that I can take toward this goal? And it's like right now, today, tomorrow, those small actions that accumulate over time.
And I think there's something powerful to that when you lay out what the goal is, and then if you take an action on it today, right? Like that action on it today could be like, you could lay out the action items and priority. Like, hey, my goal is, that travel. I need to get my passport. I need to figure out the best time of year to go. I need to then get the tickets, then get the hotel, all of those things. It's like, that might be 5 things. Let me prioritize what's what's the most important one, or whatever, and then you can just execute on that and then execute on the next one and the next one. I think what's really powerful about that is when you can like execute immediately, is you just prove to yourself that you're the kind of person that takes action.
Yes.
Right. And maybe historically, if you've planned and made big goals and you've had trouble hitting your goals, a lot of times you can have low confidence and certainty in your ability to set and hit a goal. And when you have failed in the past of setting and hitting goals, then the thought of goal setting is like, it's a fun exercise, but you're kind of subconscious is being like, you ain't gonna do this. Like, nah, you're full of it, man. But if you can start executing on it immediately and even find an easy win, like consider the win not just when you go on that trip. Consider the win when you go to the office to get your passport. Consider it a win when you can check off that you've done your research and you know the time of year you want to go. Like each one of those pieces should be a win, so that you're mentally creating momentum at each step. And if you can create your first win the day of your planning, meaning like, check, I've done this first activity towards it. You're setting yourself up for those kind of wins and for that momentum, whether or not you've actually been successful with your goal setting and execution in the past.
Yes, so good. 100%. So great. This was part 3. Now you've set out your action plan, and that's pretty much your annual or your quarterly planning done.
That's done. And what I think is beautiful about this is no matter where you're at now, this could be in the middle of a quarter. Like if you don't already have this in play, just lay out grab a quick, half day on Friday, or like go out on a Sunday, take the day and plan this out and go, what do I want the rest of the quarter to be?
Yes.
Right. And start that right now. Don't wait. Right now resolution. I would say be resolved to always make right now resolutions, because what you'll see is when you wait till Monday, when you wait till next month, when you put any time between when you say you want to do something and when you take the first action step, the longer that delay is, the less likely you're going to do it. So the easiest way you have to prove to yourself you're going to do it is to take an immediate action on that goal. So right now, set up that Sunday, set up that Friday, set up that one day you're going to go off and start planning this out. So to kind of recap.
So let's recap. Part 1, we talked about reflecting, looking back, answering the questions, what went well, what didn't go well, and what were those lessons learned. Part 2 was setting the big goals and visions. Remember, you're going to lay out 5 key areas for yourself and set goals for yourself in those 5 areas. You're going to ask yourself, what are some big opportunities and ideas that you have? What are your non-negotiables? And what is your theme for that quarter or for that year? And then part 3, we took action. What are our right now resolutions? What are small steps that you can implement that very same day to move you forward to your goals?
Yeah. So I think what is really, really important here is like we put this show on because we really want to help people. We really want to make a big difference in the lives of those that have big dreams. And if you're listening to this show, that tells me that you are a high achiever, that you have big goals. You could be watching any Netflix binge, and you could be doing anything you want right now, but you're listening to a show on high performance. You're listening to a show on reaching our goals. So really make sure you walk away from this and go, what is my right now resolution from this episode? What's the action plan I'm going to take right now from this episode? Really think about that and start executing on it right now, and make it easy for yourself to execute. The easier you make it for you to execute that first step, the more likely you're going to do it. When you do things, the more likely you're going to keep repeating those actions. So that's it.
Again, this was the Takeover with Tim and Cindy. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure that you are subscribed so that you never miss an episode. This is the Takeover with Tim and Cindy. Stay winning.